Welcome to Warehouse Automation Matters. I'm your host, Mary Hart, and I'm here with Austin Feagins of Staci Americas, and we're going to talk about technology and compliance and beauty product fulfillment. Welcome, Austin. Thanks again for being on the show.
Mary, thanks for having me again. Look forward to a good collaboration here for a few minutes.
So let's get started. The beauty industry is known for its high customer expectations and strict regulations as well. From your perspective, what makes cosmetic fulfillment uniquely challenging compared to other industries?
I would say what drives the complexity is not just the regulation around it, but the vast amount of products that we're receiving. In any one industry, in terms of beauty, you can have thousands and thousands of different styles of products, sizes, what they're made of, how they're packed, how they need to ship. And then you can even have raw materials for some of these. So there's a lot of complexity in all the different things that you're going to see in the industry.
So, what are some of the most common compliance issues that brands face when it comes to distribution, and how does Staci Americas help them stay ahead of those?
So the number one I see is probably shipping controls with hazmat goods. You're going to hear hazmat and hazardous material. Fragile's a big one too, but what we see the most is storage and shipment of these goods. It's going to really dictate what kind of services these clients can ship their products through, how quickly they can get to consumers, and whether they can go in the air, whether they have to be ground, can they go on ships, all sorts of different regulations there. And then a lot of that is how we package those products. So we really try to stay up to date on all the requirements that the carriers have, as well as what all of our warehouses need to know.
So, you mentioned the packing, and so let's
Mhm.
start with talking about the pack out process. What makes it especially critical in the beauty industry compared to others, and how do you ensure the products are packed correctly and consistently?
So this is a really important question and a really good call out in beauty. So I've got some background in beauty outside of Stasi and the industry as a whole, and the consumer here is really expecting the best. We're not talking about shipping paper towels where they can show up crinkled. The product needs to be faced appropriately. It needs to be in one piece. It has to get there on time because somebody is looking for a very specific thing when it comes to beauty. They want the right shade. They want the right kind of product. It can't be damaged. It can't be shaken up in some cases. There's all sorts of requirements. And so for us, it's how do we make sure we package it appropriately so that it makes it to that consumer and delivers that delight when they actually open their package?
So we talked about making sure that it gets there correctly and without any damage whatsoever. And damage prevention is definitely a big part of maintaining that product quality. How do you incorporate damage checks into the pack out workflow to protect fragile items like glass bottles of fragrance or high-end packaging?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways, but what I'm going to say is it really starts with knowing the product and then being able to let the packers know that they're going to be handling a product that is fragile or hazmat, for example. Now, what I mean by that is you need to flag these items in the WMS so that all along the process, whoever is touching that product knows, hey, this might be glass. Hey, this might be flammable. It might need to be a good that has to be bubble bag. Maybe it needs a Ziploc. And so what we try and do is really establish a process where a packer can see an SOP in front of them. And as they're looking at that SOP, when a fragile item comes through, they say, I know I need to grab bubble wrap and I need a Ziploc bag and I need to place it in the box a certain way to make sure that it gets there. And then the other piece that a lot of places don't think about is you have to have that packaging handy for that packer. That's probably one of the biggest pieces at pack out to make sure that we don't damage these goods or having the right things. Some of these items you don't want to wrap them in paper if it's glass. You need to put it in plastic or bubble, no matter how much we may not like that product. If it breaks, you don't want the end consumer to hurt themselves on it, but ideally we don't want it to break at all. So a couple different pieces really go into that.
So we talked about hazmat and how to make sure that they have the right packaging for that. Is there anything you wanted to add about managing hazmat labeling and documentation requirements at the pack out stage to stay compliant?
Absolutely. The biggest, I'm going to say benefit, but probably the best way to manage this is making sure, again, the packer knows it. How we do that is typically flag it. So when the packer is getting ready to prepare an order, we're going to populate, is there an SOP? What labels do you need? Where do the labels need to go on the box? Because for the listeners, some of them know, but some of them may not. You can have up to 4 or 5 different labels on a package other than your shipping label just to indicate what is inside of that package. And I don't mean, hey, it's a purple tube of lipstick. Hey, there is something flammable in here. It's a small quantity, but You have all sorts of arrows and numbers and different verbiage that you have to put on there. And so for us, it's how do you show a person who may deal with 5 of these a day or may deal with 10,000, and they may be different products every time. And we just try to keep it clear to say, here's what you need, here's where it needs to go. And then we've got some technology that really helps us do that, overhead cameras and some other pieces of tech in the warehouse that we like to use.
You mentioned that you've introduced AI-enabled visuals and overhead cameras into your packout process. Can you explain how those systems work and what advantages they bring to beauty product fulfillment?
Absolutely. This was a cool piece of technology. I want to say a front runner in the space. We've all seen and heard of cameras to monitor productivity, to monitor different things. This vendor actually took a different look at it, and we have directly mounted overhead of the packing station in a very specific area. This vendor monitors everything that goes into the package. They make a determination if they believe it is the right product based on a visual. So it will talk about how we make sure we get the right thing to the packer. The packer may not know. The software says, oh, I'm supposed to have a pink lipstick. That doesn't look pink. Maybe we need somebody to double check this product. One of the really cool things it's also doing is saying, hey, I have uploaded, or we teach the software. Client A may want every single product turned to the left inside of the box, and they may want dunnage in an explicit spot. This software can monitor that and tell us, hey, we don't think you put enough dunnage, or you forgot to put dunnage, you could possibly damage products and ship them. So we're reducing errors by knowing what's going in there. We're trying to reduce damages as best as we can, because the better we package, the sooner we know, and the less the end consumer is going to have. And then obviously for our clients, the less problems they're going to have when their consumers don't have damages. It's always a win-win. And then what I like to talk about, again, a warehouse person here, productivity gain. Something we didn't anticipate with this software is as the technology developed, and I'm going to say AI, but the way they learn and watch processes, they're actually able to start telling us, hey, we noticed this packer picked 1,000 or packed 1,000 orders today. We saw them pick the box and turn the box every time they put it on the scale in front of them. If you tell them to not turn that box or put it on the right way the first time, you're going to say, 2 seconds every day for 1,000 packages. Doesn't sound like much. If you're in at my side of the industry, those seconds really matter. And they're able to say, hey, we caught X amount of errors. This packer is going really fast. Here's why we think they are. Maybe you need to teach your other packers how to do it this way. And then they can monitor again. Did we follow the steps correctly? And so that's been a really cool piece of tech. It's a lot more intelligent than I think we ever anticipated. But we constantly are seeing, hey, we noticed you didn't put the label in the right spot. Hey, you told us this was hazmat. We don't have a hazmat label on it. Stop the order before we can print the shipping label. It'll say, nope, you have to have lead approval. You missed the label. And so they'll monitor that as it goes through. So really cool process.
So, beyond packout, how are you using technology to monitor the movement of beauty products throughout the warehouse and maintain traceability?
Yeah, we have to be able to show for most of our goods, and it's not necessarily health. It might not
Mhm.
be FDA regulated even, but we have to show that we receive the goods. The clients want to know not necessarily where the goods are in the warehouse, but they need to know how many we have and where it is in terms of, is it in the building? What status is it in? Is it damaged? Is it undamaged? A lot of that we can control with the WMS and scanning, but then a lot of the traceability comes from our picking technology as well as our inventory management. So we're very pro AMR, so autonomous mobile robotics, goods to person robotics, any way we can move goods through the warehouse. But with those kind of technologies, what we've had to do is partner with companies like Locus, who can allow us to scan products as we pick them. So we know the product is sitting in the warehouse because we brought it in. We know usually, and I'll talk about that in a second, we usually know where it is in the warehouse. We're actually really good at it. But we need to know that we pulled that product from a location. So when we go and we pick, Locus requires that we scan the product and place it in a very explicit position on the bot or in the tote or in the package that it's going to, and then takes it over to pack out for us. But we're getting some visibility to say, product A, this fragile piece, came out of location 1. And now we have that product on robot number 1, and robot number 1 went to pack station number 4. Pack station 4 took it off, and we have a full chain effectively of where the product has gone in the warehouse. I talked a little bit about inventory. One of our, I say, fun pieces, something that we've worked on and partnered with a company for a few years on, are drones in the warehouse. And What we do is we actually have Corvus. I say we have them fly, their drones are autonomous. So every evening after the warehouse leaves, their drones take off, scan location, scan labels on the pallets, give us an estimate of how much space we have in the building, where our product is, and they give us reports every morning that tell the inventory team, hey, maybe you have a product in the wrong spot, or hey, you mark this as hazmat, but you told me that hazmat has to go in this side of the warehouse. Some requirements are really strict about how we store it. Maybe we have to have sprinklers over it. Maybe we have to have cage, for example, for aerosols. They can say, hey, we noticed you put a case of aerosols in the wrong location. You need to move it. And so we can help be compliant with that. But it's a really fun piece of technology that's really helped us get ahead.
So, are there any specific use cases or benefits you've seen from combining robotics of any kind with your pack-out technology, particularly for high volume or high SKU count brands?
Oh, absolutely. I'm talking about high SKU count. We have some brands that I probably can't mention, and I wish I could, but we're handling goods that range from $50 per package to multiple thousands of dollars per package. Think some cosmetics with a minimum of $50. Think a pair of shoes that cost $5,000. We have used, I'm going to say, a semblance of all these technologies to help fulfill that brand at over a 99.9%. And we're playing with hundreds of a percentage point. We're not missing a shipment. We're missing maybe an item in a shipment after a million shipments, which again, that's a big deal when you're talking a product that maybe cost someone $1,000. I know how upset I would be if $1,000 product wasn't delivered appropriately. So we pair, picking, we pair inbound, we pair inventory management, and then pack out especially. And then we can also talk a little bit about end of line scanning, is what I'm going to call it, but making sure after we pack it out, we know we have everything. Did we get that package on a truck? So we pair a lot of that together.
So, with customer expectations rising and regulatory standards of any kind getting tighter, how do you see the role of technology in pack-out evolving further for beauty brands?
Well, I'll highlight first that it's going to be necessary to have. We're probably a year or two, again, my opinion from what I've seen in the industry, away from having to have recorded video of what we're packing out, full traceability on where the goods are moving through the warehouse, probably not just even for the client. One example of this that's a little bit lower level is some states in the US are starting to require this year that we tell them how much packaging we are shipping in. So, for example, a client may ship in poly mailer, they may ship in a box. Certain states are going to want to know, how much cardboard did you send us? How much plastic did you send us? Where did the plastic come from? Did you send us hazmat? If so, how much did you send? Now, mind you, we're not necessarily the shipper in terms of we're not delivering it off of the truck. We're going to have to hold the record of that. And it's not going to be, well, we picked it and we scanned it with the WMS and put it on a truck. We're going to have some video. We're going to have some other ways to manage it. So I say it's going to be critical. The type of product is going to continue evolving. How they're packaging things is going to continue evolving. What we make things of is going to keep changing. So having that right tech really helps us stay ahead of the curve.
That makes perfect sense. And that does seem like a lot to manage. Does the inline scanning that you mentioned come into play there as well?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of our carrier partners, they are handling, very, very large amounts of volume. And we want to make sure we give them all of the products. We don't want anything to stay in the warehouse, even though we said we packaged it. So in quite a few of our buildings, what we're doing, even after we pack out and we have a video of it, we're passing the product across a scale underneath the scanner. So we're getting a picture of a label. Do we have the right ship code? Do we have hazmat labels? Do we need hazmat labels? What does the package weigh? And then we're calculating, well, we put these 5 items in it, so those should weigh a pound, and the box should weigh a quarter pound. Well, we ran it across a scale and it weighs a pound and a half. So what did we miss? Did we have a fill rate problem? Does a client maybe have an issue with their manufacturer they don't know about? We can actually divert that package, open it back up, check the product. Did we somehow miss it? Usually we're pretty good at not. But we can say, hey, did we maybe grab the wrong size of the product? Maybe it has the same barcode and it was manufacturer here. So we're trying to find every last bit we can to say, before it goes onto that truck, how can we ensure that this product is exactly right?
So, as a last question, what advice would you give to brands who are looking to scale their fulfillment operations while maintaining strict quality and compliance standards? Besides, of course, calling Staci Americas.
I'll say partner with an expert in the field. I want to say it should be us. Will it be us? Maybe not. Even if it's not a third party, as you get into what are your products made of, how are they going to ship, find the right consultant, find the right logistics partner, because there are experts out there who can manage this. My pitch here is we have a team that is dedicated to understanding this. We have a transportation department that understands carrier regulations. We have a team that is starting to look into what are state regulations? How are we going to manage this? What's the best way to do it? Can we get ahead of what's coming next on some of these things? So really find the right partner. We'd love for that to be us. Again, you may not need a third party company yet. You may be in the stages of figuring out what you even need to do from the start, but find the right people who can tell you how to navigate.
And thank you again, Austin, for being on the show today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again, and look forward to doing this in the future.
Absolutely. And thank you, as always, to our listeners. We're here to help you move what matters in your warehouse with unmatched flexibility and unlimited throughput.